Hey guys, hope everybody's doing well out there. This is Warren Ness with RockSculptor. Had some time in the studio and wanted to get a video out to a gentleman I know, another concrete carver. His name is James Ferran. He's out of Syracuse. His company is called the Elite Concrete Company. He does good work. He's been doing vertical for some years now, and we're going to be doing a study in this video, as well as just kind of want to cover some tips that go along with doing a study, more of a lecture type. So let's just jump right in. All right, so we've seen enough of the drawings that I do and other people's drawings out there that they have a place in the market on two sides. So it for the client, it works well, and I'm going to outline those details. And secondly, it helps the artist kind of digest the material he or she is going to be creating. So let's go through the first one right here, which is the increase your visual library. Let me change this to a red, and this will help me figure out which one we're on. Okay, so increase visual library. What does that mean? That means that when you do a study, let's just say a rock, a piece of granite, you're kind of sketching that object and interpreting the surface texture, the color, the shape language, etc. It's going to help you catalog that information, help remember it. Looking at it is just partly gets you there. So that's one facet, the importance of drawing is just increasing your visual library. We've been on plenty of jobs before where we're doing a large wall, and if you only know a couple of different styles or techniques, you're going to end up replicating the same thing over and over. So increasing that library is going to put you in a better area to succeed with better looking work at the end. Secondly, you're working out potential problems. This goes in for like the pole guys out there who are doing the rock grottos, stairs, diving boards, slides, grotto lids, those types of things. You could do a CAD drawing with that, but it's a little more rigid. It's very rigid, in fact, as opposed to just hand drawing. Now, some of you aren't artists or you don't know how to draw. That's fine. We're going to work through that. We're going to get some videos completed to help you put you on the fast track, just to kind of, not to be able to do still lifes or anything like that, but to do more of the construction drawings, if you will. Very simple three-dimensional forms, very blocky, but enough to visually communicate that to your client, and if you have a workforce, to your workforce. And then your design flaws. This is kind of the one rock being a little higher over here on the right side, or this being a little lower. How far does the grotto lid project out when it cantilevers? Those types of things are going to help you walk through the job setting. It's almost like the analogy I come up with is kind of like you're going camping and you got to pack the tent, the cooler, the bug spray, soup to nuts. You're thinking of everything. So you're kind of doing a mental walkthrough or a jog through. And those mental gymnastics actually going to put you in a better spot to succeed with better looking work. If you just take a little bit of time, an hour, 2 hours max, is going to pay huge dividends in the end. So for some of you guys out there who are just showing up on the site and building with the foam or rebar, or not working off a clay model, I would suggest just give drawing a chance. Okay, now on the other side, let's switch it to yellow. Sales tool, huge sales tool. If you can visually communicate to your client what they're going to be getting, there's kind of an emotional undertone that goes along with that. They seem to get excited. It's like buying a new car, that new smell of leather, that type of effect. And when you can hand them a polished drawing that, whether it's superimposed on their property, that's huge. 9 times out of 10, your chances of closing that deal are very high. Okay, so that's a very, very powerful. Put 2 hours on that. Very powerful. Secondly, it's going to do for you is you're going to increase your customer confidence. There's another artist out there, Dave Montoya. Does some nice stuff, beautiful renderings as well. And he says it best is, when you increase your customer confidence, um, being able to hand draw a schematic or a backyard feature of some sort shows a lot of skill. Along with that, it's gonna give your customer the confidence you need to sell that job. So real important there. And then lastly, debunking any contract flaws. So, a lot of times they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. I think that's very true, simply because it's there. There's nothing really to can get misinterpreted. If you're showing the stairs, if you're doing a good job on the drawing, outlining all the details and specifics on it, whether size, scale, you know, little details that need to be included with it, it's really powerful. Otherwise, that could summarize into about 3 pages worth of contract details. Depending on your client, you might have free will. Some of them wanted to see everything spelled out or drawn out. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about drawing by itself. Drawing digitally. What does that mean? So a lot of you guys know I draw on a Surface Pro. It's a desktop tablet by Microsoft. And the software I use is Autodesk Sketchbook primarily for my drawings. I do use Photoshop. We're going to be doing some videos on that as time goes on. But for right now, Autodesk Sketchbook is a piece of freeware you can get for free. And let's talk about some of the things that pertain to drawing digitally. Let's go to like a cyan blue, real light blue. Okay, so editing capabilities. Let's go right here. Sorry about that. Make a new layer. Okay, editing capabilities. Okay, so when you do a drawing, a lot of times, I say 9 out of 10, you can get a revision. The customer may want to see it in a different color, or they want to see maybe the landscape, with the grass that comes up around the edge, whatever the details that may pertain to. So what's cool about drawing digitally is that you'll save the file almost like you're doing a Microsoft Word document, and you're just going to do a save as, and you create a new file based off that. You'll go ahead and make those revisions and those changes, and then you could resubmit. Then sometimes your client will say, well, you know what, let's go back to the original. Well, that just saved you a bunch of time and not recreate those drawings twice. So it's very powerful. Email ready, that's self-explanatory. You can do it. They end up coming out to like 2 meg, depending on the size, 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17, landscape or portrait mode. You can incorporate realistic textures, so I can download images via Google Images, take those images in, do a little bit of conditioning, and then go ahead and superpose that over the subject matter. That's really saves a lot of time, really. And also what it does is, let's say your artistic skills aren't that polished yet, it's kind of like faking it till you make it. You can put textures in and colors, and huge time saver. And obviously the next one is increased workflow. Pretty much self-explanatory there as well. Okay, and then obviously full HD color. To be able to provide color prints and tints and different types of filters is a huge advantage over drawing traditionally, meaning sketchbook, paper, and pencil. Personally, I love drawing on sketchbook and paper, but in the digital age, it's becoming, you can get a little more out of it going digital. So, all right, guys. Okay, so we got an example of doing a quick study. So obviously the sketch is pretty rudimentary, pretty basic, kind of simulated kind of a chalkboard effect with white chalk. All right, and this is the reference that I found on Google Images. That's a piece of real rock. It looks like a piece of granite. Really cool. I thought that would be a nice piece for vertical carved concrete. Reason being that could be transported, could be foam core, could be curved, to match that same curve of the hardscape system. kind of going around like that. I mean, how cool would that be? But for this instance, we went ahead and just did a quick study. So this is nothing more than kind of a side view, top view, and an isometric view, a three-dimensional view, three-quarter view. And this is kind of in a block form. So I'm going to talk about this. Let's go to a red pen. So obviously this is what the unit's going to look like from the side. You should kind of get a sense of the size of the back. That's where the person's going to sit down and rest their back on that back plane. What's the angle of that, right? So let's look at, that angle right there. Obviously it's not straight plumb. It's got a little bit of a kickback going. And that could be seasoned to taste as well, depending on your client, right? Or the look. All right. Erase those lines real quick. Here's the top view. Again, these things are going to help you digest this material so you know how to build it in the field. And the next one, kind of a block view. You can see I just took blocks and constructed it. Let's just say you were building this sitting bench out of foam core construction. What would those blocks look like, the subframe? And so just doing a quick three-dimensional view kind of helps you simulate how this thing is going to be constructed. And then lastly, the three-quarter view, right? Three-dimensional space. And let me switch my pen here, something thinner. And you notice I kind of wrap this with these contour lines, and the ones in particular, these edges. See how they're rounded? So when your leg goes over that and the back of your kneecap, you don't get scuffed. I think if you look at this picture, I have almost a similar thing going on. See it? So we kind of match that. And then obviously these are kicking back and then go up. Real important detail. Same thing where the butt rests in right here. You can see it's kind of coved out. It's got a little bit of radius to it. It's not just a 90 button in. And kind of wanted to illustrate that here. But you see, this sketch took nothing more than 2 minutes. But those little details are now cataloged. So when you're going to build, you're set. Similar like a carpenter. When a carpenter goes to build something, depending on how many times he did it, he's going to go ahead and walk through those mental gymnastics and say, okay, I need 2x4s, or do this, do that, the trusses. He's got it built in his head before he steps on the ground. And sometimes with new material or new things you're going to be building, drawing helps you, well, forces you to interpret that material and catalog it. Okay. And we've gone ahead and put some notes on this. Needs to be skin friendly, right? The people are sitting down. You could have young ones. Typically, people are out enjoying the backyard arena in the summertime. They're going to be wearing shorts, tank tops, those sorts of garments. And, you're going to want it skin friendly. How do we do that? More videos are going to be coming out. And obviously, I teach this in my workshops. If you can make a workshop, I think it'd be very good for you to come out and help you really cement a lot of these processes and techniques. And then comfort, right? Do a little bit of research. What's the best sitting height for this? What's the best reclining height? You're kind of, again, developing that blueprint in your mind of what this thing is going to look like. And that goes back to form and function, right? Form, what it looks like, the function, how people are using it, how well does it function. All right, guys, I'm going to jump into the next phase of this. Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back. I got Autodesk Sketchbook fired up, and I'm going to be loading up some images. These images were taken by James Ferran out of Syracuse. He's got a current project in which he's doing some like retaining walls and some rock finishes out there, and pretty unique looking rock. You're going to see here as I bring them up. But we're going to go ahead and do a quick study on these and kind of point out some things that I look for when replicating a new different texture or style. And so let's go ahead and just jump right in. You see, this is image number 1. this is got the general finish that's what he's dealing with out there. And I'm going to try to scale it up so we could take a look at it. Closer view. Kind of see it. Just kind of giving you guys a quick pan of it. Look at that biology growing on there, and lots of fragments and a lot of silt. Looks like pretty unique looking stuff. All right, let's go ahead and shrink this down. Put it over here. Next image, same thing. Looking at some pretty cool textures in there though. Different bands. All right, that's number 2. Number 3, this is a cool one. I like this. Obviously, it's a little sharper, a little less eroded. Look at the lines, they're straight. I mean, you'll put a level on them. Chalk line. Cool, very cool. And then the last one. Looks like he eroded. Looks like it was under earth for a little bit. Look at the soil stain. All right. So there's the images. So first thing, I'm going to shut these down. They're going to be a little less cluttered. Let's look at this one right here. Switch to a brush. Make a layer. This one right here. So let's look at it. It looks like pretty mild texture. You know, not a whole lot of shadowing. Pretty flat generally, for the most part. But there are some distinct things that you gotta put into your carved concrete to get this look to look similar. A little divot like that. Look at that shadow line in there. Even though it's a small detail, there's another one there. Little skinny ones. There's always a grain to the rock. Rock always has a grain to it. And it looks like the grain's going this way. So the sedimentary or the particles are all flowing, looks like east to west. And look at this vertical, it's got a fracture right there. Kind of see it subtly. If you didn't have that in there, just like one plain wall, that's something you could accentuate a little bit, make it a little more pronounced. You can use what's there as a template and go ahead and stylize it to your liking. Okay, we'll zoom in right there. You can see where the crack comes up. Look at that. Let's switch to red so you can kind of see. Look at that break right there. It comes down, even breaks right into this little dead space area, and it kind of tracks down. Same thing here, even though it's stepped off a little bit. So, all right, that's an interesting tidbit. And I did a quick sketch on this. I'll bring it up. So that's just a pencil sketch in Sketchbook. And I will be doing a live demonstration on this in the next video. But in the meantime, you guys can get Sketchbook. I would download it. Just so you know, the brush pack you're going to want for this is the Cohen Textures. See it right here? Those are the cool brushes that kind of give me the rock texture. And I'm going to show you how to use that in conjunction with the eraser tool and the pencil tool. So just a couple of different pencils, you can get some really cool textures that look rocky. And this, like I said, this took nothing more than just, I think, 4 or 5 minutes. It's nothing, it's not a still life or anything. It's not nothing you're going to get published, but it helps you walk through the process in which you're going to carve it. So let's talk about this one, for instance. Let's switch my pen here. Make a new layer. Now you can see we put the fracture in. That's that fracture running down. And you're not going to want to run that straight. You can see how I got some jogs going in and out. Make it a little more interesting. And even the top's got that little bit of a kickback. Helps that eye draw that hey, this thing fractured and it's shifting. Even though it doesn't do it up in the real one, you can go ahead and customize it to your liking. That's what's cool about what we do. And what we talked about is the grain. Look at the grains going east to west. Pretty simple. I did make this area a little bit darker in here. I think it kind of gives you kind of a visual stimulant, and it lands about the top third. If you guys have taken my classes, I talk about the thirds a lot. You want to place features in the thirds, never kind of picture frame it or go bullseye middle. So another little detail. In the class we got coming up, we're going to be making rollers to kind of simulate this texture. I'll show you how to kind of do that with just about 1.5 inches of mud onto the substrate. We can go ahead and create those types of textures. Secondly, sketch the footprint. That's step one. That's the outline perimeter of the study. You're going to locate the grain direction, which we've already talked, east to west, right? Put your fractures in right here. It's running this way. You could even, if you wanted to put another little one going down here, however you wanted to do it. We got to see more reference, but you could get creative there. And then lastly is the texture. So those kinds of elements of what you're looking for in your study diagram. And that's going to help you develop your textures, your workflow, communicate the process to your employees if you have employees. And with limited time, or excuse me, just a little bit of time, it provides a great resource in the field. All right, guys, so on to the next one. Okay, so last example, I went ahead and sketched in a quick study, and this is just a quick pencil. This has no texture on it like the other drawing, and all I did was kind of copy what he's got going on out in Syracuse, and it looks like if you look at it, it looks like just a stack of books, and those obviously the books are different widths, heights, and different scale relationships to one another. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to do a quick live demonstration on how I did something this quick. And this is on its own layer. If some of you are familiar with the program, you probably are familiar with the layers. You can see this toolbar on the right side. It's got kind of a little thumbnail of a picture, and those are layers. You see I can turn them on and off. Same thing here. I could scale this in and out. I could have multiple studies and do a whole cascade of them, and that's really powerful having it on its own layer, especially for shading and outlining, and I'm going to demonstrate that here right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off. We'll start a new layer. That's this plus sign right here, and I'm going to pick a dark black. Okay, and the pen I like to use is this pencil right here. And these are the settings. It's called the Art Pencil. Size about 10.4 in the opacity. You can change all those parameters. And all I want to do is I'll sketch out a box. You got a line coming in like this. I always draw kind of with boxes. Helps you see the form. All right, so you got your box. And these could be the slivers, if you will. Pointing out over here, those relationships. Now some are higher, right? We're going to extend some lines up. Some are lower. Get some of these lines, same thing here. Some of these project out, and just some of them just kind of recede off into the distance. This looks like the wall that goes up. All right. I'll switch to a red real quick just to kind of show you the area that I'm kind of working on. So we got this first big block right there. Switch to black. So let's go ahead and sketch that in. Now that I got the block, I got this box, and I got all these kind of lines receding in and out. I'm already kind of seeing the three-dimensional form there. And as you get more experience, you're going to see it as well. I'll create a new layer. And notice that I could turn this layer, kind of like tracing paper. I could turn it, the opacity up, the full strength, or turn it off. Well, right now, I just kind of want a hint of it. And now I'm going to come in with the black. and I'll start to sketch in the rock. Because to do this without a subframe under there is very hard. I'm not that skilled. My drawings, I don't do a whole lot of still lifes or any of that. My drawings are pretty quick. Some of them are like monochromatic or just have a filter on it. They aren't kind of hyper realistic at all. It's just got a cool line going here. Same thing this comes up. Look at the edges. I'm looking at the edges here, right? Kind of fractured off. Remember the grain's going east to west on this rock? You know, this could be in and out. We don't want it completely straight. Same thing here. This is where all these deposits are, seems to be collecting on this top surface. Right? Got the grain of the rock going like something like that. More deposits on this top side. Okay. Now, you wouldn't start the next one right here. You're going to start it right about here, right? Say something like that, right? And make this one maybe a little bit thicker. You know, and then maybe just come down like that. And we could adjoin a lot of these top surfaces later. And maybe this one steps off here. Maybe another little break. Okay, like I said, it's just like a stack of books stacked on one another. We could change that too, make it a little more stylized, especially without the color information going in. I'm going to switch to the eraser tool and erase out some of the lines I don't like. Looks pretty good. Back to the pencil. Something like that. I don't want to get too carried away here, but gives you an idea, gets you a little more acquainted with the pencil tool. All right. Now I'll show you a quick trick on the shading. I'm going to make a new layer. I'll take the, let's do the watercolor brush. I'll tell you something different here. Test it out over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and run some texture. And you notice I'm stroking it, the grain of the texture, right? Going with the grain, same thing here. Maybe a little darker right there, just to give a little more interest. All right, same thing. Really cool brush. It's got a real feathery touch when you're sketching with it. A light shade right there. Something like that, right? Now watch this. This is where it gets good. Take the hard eraser tool, and the areas where I don't want shading, see, I can really crispen that out and go around the outside. See, I could erase that layer, but I can't erase anything else. I can't erase my sketch lines. I'm only erasing the shading layer. Same thing. You can come in with the airbrush tool. You can see it. And then I'll just go ahead and make a new layer. I'll blow some paint. See, I'm just kind of blowing over everything at that point. And I'm going to go to the eraser tool. I'm going to erase out what I don't want. Like, I don't want this top surface to be shaded because that's where the sun's hitting. It's illuminating that top surface, right? So we're going to want that to be lit. Another top area here, same thing, right? It's lit by the sun. And then same thing here. That's kind of lit. And I'm going to take the soft brush, soft eraser, and just kind of erase out a couple little things there. All right, so now we got kind of a terracing thing. I think that would look cool for a water wall or like a wall feature to an entrance to like a gated community would be pretty cool. But let's go ahead and join these top sides now. I'm going to go ahead and merge with below. See the merge with below comes up? And what that does turns those two layers into one layer now. Again, we're not making pretty pictures. We're just trying to help develop the form here. All right. Next step is we're going to go ahead and erase. We're going to merge it with the sketch layer now. So now it's all on one layer. You see I still got the frame layer in which this was constructed. And I'm going to go ahead and erase out this top level. And then we can sketch something in to kind of maybe join all of that. So back to the pencil. Well, let's see here. Now this could be connected, right? You're going to have some terracing as it's stepping down. There you go. And then obviously all the little deposits on the top are really going to help. And in the next video, I'm going to get into some different texture brushes and stuff like that to help visually sell that. But this is enough to get you acquainted with the software, get it downloaded if you have a tablet. Some of you guys, even with sketch paper, you can follow along. If you don't have a tablet, you can still do this process. All right, so that's in. If you wanted, you can connect this too, into one entity, just like that. So now it's starting to look like something. A lot of times I'll go around with the thicker outline just to help outline the whole shape, if you will. Maybe dropping some shades here and there to just, some things are in shadow. All right. That's basically it in a nutshell, guys. All right, I'm going to merge this and scale it down. And then this is our original. This is what I had done the other day. Scale it down. Kind of the same look. You guys get a sense of what's going on. But again, it's forcing you to walk through what are those edges like, what are the textures like, which way are your fractures running, which way is the grain running, are the lines straight up and down, which they are. Look at the flakes going on in there. It's going to force you to look at the color information. Look at the way this rock is kind of wedged in there. You switch to a red. Right in here. That little bit of shadow line. So here's the deal when you're carving. When you're carving, you're actually, how should I say this? You're not drawing with light, but you're creating the form. It's all about light and shadow. If you've checked out the other videos on Trinic, I talk about this all the time. I talk about it in my live workshops. It's the light and shadow which creates the form. If you take a beautiful statue, put it in a closet with no light, you can't see it. However, when you light that subject matter from one side, it's going to illustrate that form. That's what you're doing when you're carving rock. You're not putting a man on the moon, and we're not creating statues neither, but the information needs to be semi-correct. So if we look at this area right here, you see we got a nice shadow followed by a highlight. So without that shadow in there, you can see it would lack that detail, and those surface details are what make it. So let's go ahead and pluck that color. I can go ahead and use the eyedropper tool and I can pick that color. See, it's kind of a dark gray. And then I'll take the watercolor brush and watch, I'll go over that. Now look how like really vanilla that looks now. You know, let's just say you didn't have any surface details in there and you painted it and you modeled it gray. It lacks. Same thing on this edge right there. If you didn't have those different clefts and fractures, it'll look like an architectural saw cut or wet saw cut booklet slammed in there. Anyway, enough rambling for today. I hope this video was useful. If you have any questions, you can send questions my way via email. Email's info@rocksculptor.com. Love to hear your input. Until next time, guys, take care and happy carving.